Hey guys, it's YXBA here, and I'm back with another video. So yesterday I did a video on how far Nintendo has come in terms of their view on the mobile gaming industry in just a short period of time. And as of today, we got a lot of news about how successful the Pokemon Go venture has been. I think from this point forward, mobile gaming is going to be one of Nintendo's big pillars. I don't think that is a bad thing at all for Nintendo fans. There was a couple of key articles out there that I read today that showed just how successful Pokemon Go was, and I'm not surprised at all at how successful it is. I mean, it's Pokemon, it's a big IP, and it's a very innovative game that uses augmented reality. It has the whole exercise vibe to it as well, as you can go for a walk in your community and have some fun hunting down Pokemon at the same time, which I think is really cool. I just started seeing so much content out there on social media about Pokemon Go. One of the biggest things I saw was a lot of pictures on Twitter about some really, really funny and sometimes inappropriate places that people were supposedly discovering Pokemon. Some of the biggest YouTubers out there, like Boogie2988, were doing pretty significant video coverage of the game, as well as a lot of satire sites. It just seems like there was such a big vibe out there for this game. And then I read an article that Nintendo was actually delaying the worldwide rollout in some regions because the game was so popular that their servers were having trouble keeping up with the demand. And then as of today, I read a couple of really, really compelling articles. One of them is from a website that basically estimates how much money a particular mobile game is making. And that website suggested that Pokemon Go was already up to $1.6 million per day, and that is on iPhone alone and the United States region alone. And as we know, Pokemon is an IP that is popular all around the world. So some of you might say at this point, yeah, well, maybe it's just big on Apple and it's missing out on the Android side of things. Not the case. In fact, on Android, the average active daily users for Pokemon Go is already ahead of social media apps like Instagram and Snapchat, and is actually very, very close to Twitter, which completely blew my mind. Again, that is in United States only. Obviously, this type of game is probably going to have like a peak, and I'm not sure exactly how long that it'll take until it peaks, and then the revenue will probably start to decline and settle into that hardcore user base that keeps on going back for that game long term. But as it looks like now, this one game alone might rival Nintendo's entire business in terms of profit. If it's making $1.6 million a day in the United States on one platform, let's estimate that on Android and iPhone, that's $2.5 million per day in the United States, and let's estimate that the United States accounts for 1/3 of the worldwide income for that title. These are all just rough numbers, they could be off, but at this point you're up to about $7.5 million of revenue a day. And Nintendo as a company actually did approximately $5 billion of revenue in American dollars this last fiscal year. So 7.5 million per day times by 365 days comes to $2.7 billion a year. And unlike the rest of Nintendo's revenues, not nearly as much of this money is going to be tied up in expenses. Like, they make a lot of revenue off of selling consoles, but of course they have to pay for consoles on the other end. This is going to be mainly a straight profit deal, because at this point you have the development cost of the game, but there aren't a ton of ongoing costs. Now, obviously these numbers could be a little bit off. Maybe it's only a third of that. Okay? Only a third of that would still be an incredible amount of money. And of course, it probably tapers off, and you also have to factor in that Nintendo actually doesn't fully own Pokemon. They only own 35% of Pokemon Company, and they only own I think, a 1/3 share of the company that makes Pokemon mobile games, which is a separate company from the Pokemon Company, and they own a share. Pokemon Company owns a share, and Google actually owns a share as well. And it's really interesting, of course, that Google is actually partially owning the company with Nintendo and Pokemon Company. And at the time, I wasn't really sure why Nintendo and Google were both involved in that way. But I think it's becoming quite clear now why Google wanted in on this, because one of the people who had worked on Pokemon Go had said today that they would be interested in integrating future mobile Pokemon games into future augmented reality glasses, such as Google Glass. Now it makes a lot of sense why Google would want to be involved with this, to make sure that they have a killer app for their upcoming augmented reality glasses, similar to the way that maybe Microsoft really wanted to have Minecraft in place in order to have a killer app for HoloLens. Regardless, if this is a sign of the way things are going to be going for Nintendo's foray into mobile, you can bet that this is going to be a huge, huge part of their business. And honestly, I think it's a really, really good thing for Nintendo. It kind of flies in the face of all the negative talk out there about Nintendo. Oh yeah, like the console business for Nintendo is dying, and it's only a matter of time before mobile completely erodes their handheld business. Well, I'm going to make a bold prediction here. Maybe right, maybe wrong. But I think that iOS and Android and the whole smartphone gaming business will actually be better for Nintendo in the long run than had it never happened at all. Because let's face it, when you're taking every single person that owns a cell phone in the world, and in the future almost everybody will own one, and getting them into a gaming ecosystem, the potential market is going to be way larger than Nintendo's handheld division ever could have been. I would not be in the least bit surprised if within the next few years, Nintendo has a year in mobile profits that rivals and beats the amount of profits that they were making at the peak of the Wii and DS alone. That's just their mobile division, and I think that that is very likely to happen. Just wait and see what happens when Mario, when Animal Crossing, when Zelda titles hit the mobile space. And for those of you who think that Nintendo is just going to pull a Konami and start making mobile games only, I think that that is very, very short-sighted. There's many other companies, much better companies, personally speaking, than Konami out there who aren't abandoning the hardcore AAA segment of their business just because there are easy profits to be made in mobile. You don't need to put Zelda Team on a mobile game, okay? So as long as Zelda Team is making profits with their AAA games, why would you close it down? Why would you close down a profitable thing just to focus on an area where they can grab easy money? Square Enix, for example, their stock has actually tripled since they started to make mobile games, but they have continued and doubled down on core experiences since that time, and it has worked out really, really well for them. The fact that you have signature experiences like Zelda, like Mario, Animal Crossing on dedicated devices where you have an extremely passionate hardcore fan base of those games is what leads to the massive instant success on mobile. One feeds into the other, okay? So for a company like Konami, you're not going to make a big hit mobile game out of Metal Gear. So there wasn't much of a symmetry between their AAA development and their mobile development. I still don't agree with it, but I can see why they sort of have decided to largely move away from AAA development. But with Nintendo, everything is in symmetry with each other. The fact that Nintendo has always made gameplay-focused experiences really lends itself well to making mobile games. They've created all these IPs that have ageless appeal, that have universal appeal, that don't just appeal to a hardcore gamer or don't just appeal to a casual gamer, makes it so that everything Nintendo does is in symmetry with each other. So there's no reason to opt out of one. And I think if they did that, if they just focused on mobile, I think eventually they would run into some trouble. The whole point of diversifying is to have a diversified outlook. What happens if you focus just on mobile and slowly you lose your really passionate fan base, and over time so many new developers start making mobile games and the market becomes saturated and the profits are down? Now you have nothing else to fall back on. So anyways, those are just a few of my thoughts on Nintendo in terms of mobile. Honestly, I just don't see how anybody could have a negative outlook right now on Nintendo's financial future. They are definitely going to make a lot of money in the mobile space, and that I think will allow them to take risks and make a more hardcore focused console that doesn't have to appeal to a broad audience, because they are going to be reaching the broadest audience possible on the mobile side of things. Let me know in the comments below if you agreed or disagreed with me. Also, like this video if you liked it, and subscribe.